Hello friends and welcome to the next video. So I'm out here in the woods at night recording again because it's way too hot during the day to record. I got a nice little fire going, keeping the bugs away. So let's just get right into this. So for those of you who've been watching me for quite a long time, you probably know that ever since I've been homeless I've been sober, except for a 1 month stint with alcohol that I was on alcohol for a month and I realized, hey, this is really dumb, and I stopped drinking. But it wasn't always like that. So in this video, I want to talk about my experience with opiates and pills in particular, along with some other drugs. So first, some context is in order. I experimented with drugs when I was a teenager, and all the way from the time I was like 12 or 13. I experimented, weed, pills, psychedelics, all that stuff. I was never got addicted to anything until I was 19. So, I had quite a bit of experience with drugs and stuff. So for some more context for kind of what I believe led me down addiction, the road to addiction. My mother was diagnosed with cancer when I was 9 years old. It was breast cancer, and she fought it, and she beat it. And then it came back a second time, and she fought it, and she beat it. And then it came back a third time, and the third time it spread very rapidly, and you always want to be an optimist. I always try to be an optimist. I always have been. But sometimes reality kind of hits you. And, it got to a point where my mother was confined to a bed. She couldn't even walk. She lost well over 100 pounds. She couldn't eat solid food. She couldn't even drink. Like, she had to drink water out of like a sippy cup. Like a child's sippy cup. Like, that's the kind of state she was in. And I just couldn't handle that. And so I began like self-medicating. At the time, I was working for my dad. My dad owned a computer repair shop. And he spent most of his time taking care of Mom. And so anytime there was a job to go out on or something needed fixed, I was doing it. And so that's where I was making my money. And every single penny I made went straight to drugs. The main drugs I was addicted to were opiates, which were prescription pain pills. More specifically, Percocet and hydrocodone. And I mean, I would 25 to 50 milligrams a day. So, I'd have like 2 pills in the morning and a couple throughout the day and then a couple at night before I went to sleep. And I was snorting all of them. And I'd often mix it with other stuff. So I'd mix it with alcohol, which is so stupid. Yeah, alcohol and pain pills should not be mixed under any circumstance. But also, this is so stupid, but I was really big into Robitussin, like drinking cough syrup. It's just horrible. And I'd mix that with the pills. And also the K3 stuff, or K2. I don't know if there's a difference. But for those of you who don't know, K2, K3, whatever it is synthetic marijuana. I think technically it's like incense. But it was legal to buy. I don't think it is anymore. It was legal to buy. And you could just smoke it. And it was nothing like marijuana. Absolutely nothing like marijuana. Every time I smoked it, while I was tripping, I would just say to myself, I'm never smoking this again. And then a couple hours later, I'm smoking it again. And the cycle just repeats. I remember one time I smoked so much, I started like running back and forth in my apartment because I was terrified because I could not remember my name or my birthday or anything like that. I didn't know who I was or where I was. And so like I'm just running back and forth in my apartment. I don't know why. When you're that high, you don't know what you're doing. I remember Another time, I mixed like everything together. I took some pills and I drank some Robitussin and I smoked that K2 stuff and I ended up completely blacking out and I woke up in the woods. I don't remember anything in between those two periods of time. From the time I put the bowl down to the time I woke up in the woods, I don't remember anything. So, you know, there's way too many drugs. But then my father got sick, and so they both had to go to the hospital. And now I'm alone in this house, just doing drugs and stuff. I remember uh, two of my dad's friends, Jim and Butch. They had surprised me at the house, and they'd brought some pizza, and they're like, "Hey, your dad's gonna be good." And I remember I was talking to Jim, and I asked Jim, "What about Mom?" And he didn't lie. Yeah, he wasn't blunt about anything, but he didn't lie. He's just, I don't remember the words. It was something to the effect of, sometimes these things happen. See, yeah, my dad, he got home like the next day, and I think it was like a week or two after that, Mom passed. And I remember I went to the funeral completely blitzed out of my mind. It was just on everything, not everything, just the pills. I'd smoked that K2 stuff before, but I was sober from that at the funeral, so I wasn't like tripping completely out at the funeral. I was just kind of on downers from the Percocets and stuff. I remember at some point, like a month or two after my mother passed, I was just sitting in my little apartment, and it is just like an epiphany. I was completely high, and it was just like an epiphany moment. Like, my mom's dead, and my dad almost died. Like, had my dad died, and I'm like on all these drugs and everything, I'm pretty screwed. And that was it. I just stopped doing everything cold turkey. I used up the last of my pills and the last of my like K3 or whatever, and I did have a lot of whiskey, and I did still drink quite a lot of whiskey for about a month. And then after a month of no pills, I put the whiskey down, and I was done with everything. And since then, I only relapsed once. And luckily I caught myself very quickly when that happened. So about a year and a half after my mom passed, my father had gotten really sick. He got pneumonia, and he was in the hospital, and I had a real job at this point, and I had a lot of money saved up. So I remember I called my old buddy up. I asked him how many pills he had, and he said, "I got 50 perk 10s. I said, "I'll take them all." I don't remember how much I spent. It was well over $300. I spent well over $300 for like 50 pills. I went to my dad's house because he had two birds. We had two birds. And so I didn't want to sleep up in my apartment and leave the bird alone. And I had those 50 pills. And I remember I snorted 2 of them. And I'm sitting in the recliner. I got them right next to me. And I don't know what it was. but something just went off in my head where I was like, wait a minute, this is very stupid. And I just made just a snap decision to like just grab the pills, and I just dumped them out in the toilet, and I flushed it, and I just went to sleep. And then about a week later, my father passed away, and obviously the kind of want was there for drugs, but I was like, no. If I go down that route, then that's not gonna end well. It's been 12 years since my dad passed. That was the last time I did pills. Haven't done K3 since. Haven't done Robitussin or anything but alcohol. And some psychedelics. Mushrooms. Like I said, since then, I've only had one stint where alcohol was a problem. And that was 2-ish years ago, and it lasted a month. And no, this is dumb. Not doing it. That was my story with drugs and my pill addiction. If there is anybody who's addicted to anything, any kind of substance, let me just tell you that life without drugs is so much better than with drugs. And I understand the withdrawals and everything, and I know I always say like I always talk about like, oh, I just decided this wasn't good enough. This wasn't a good idea and stopped. And that is true. That is how I did it. I just went full cold turkey. Everything I've ever quit, I just gone full cold turkey on. But I do understand. But there's been withdrawals, and yeah, withdrawals suck. But just push through it. Life is a lot better without drugs. I can promise you that. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's video. If you want to support me, links are in the description. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out, everybody.